Okay, I'm here to inform you about concentration camps. When you think of concentration camps, what do you think about? You don't think of anything horrible. You don't think of anything torturing or anything in that nature. You actually just think of just a normal place. It would never cross your mind. Um, but instead, it was just that. It was a place where people were tortured, people were killed, people were experimented on, and people were um, they they were starved. They were treated inhumane. Before we get started, I just want to show you a few photos of the concentration camps. So there was over 20 concentration camps. I'm gonna let you look at this picture. And this is just the general, these are all the places that the concentration camps were located. There was, like I said, at least 20. And where it started was with a man named Hitler. I'm sure we're all familiar with Hitler. He was a man that fought actually in World War One, and he actually blamed the Jewish people for the loss of the war. Um, with that being said, he decided that he wanted to become the ruler of Germany. Fast forward, that's exactly what happened. He actually anointed himself to be the ruler of Germany, and that's where the journey begins, I guess we could call it. With that, it started a little. The concentration camps began to be established a little bit after World War II started. Of course, it made sense, right? Because once World War II started, everybody was worried about the soldiers. Everybody was worried about what was going on with the war instead of what exactly was going on behind closed doors. So Hitler thought that this would be the perfect time to start these concentration camps. And these concentration camps actually came up. It was connected with the word propaganda, which actually means that it's basically a trick to your mind. You think that it's all good, in all real reality, it's a complete nightmare. It was a complete nightmare to the people that they took part in. Not only was it the Jewish people, it actually was the unnormal people. When I say unnormal people, I mean, you can actually think these people were just like people today. They were homosexuals, and it was, if they believed in something, anything besides what Hitler believed in, or anything that he thought was not normal, along with the Jewish people, they had to go. So, with that being said, the first concentration camp started in 1933, and that's cited with Braxton Inn Nazi concentration camp. And that was actually stated in there. What they did was they basically, during the war, they actually had they had German soldiers, and they went down to Poland, where they originally had tried to gamble up a deal, which they did lose the gamble, as they called it. So Hitler decided to go about it a different way, hence to the World War II. Poland was falling fast. They were losing the war, and that just gave the German soldiers enough time to go in and kind of walk the streets and everything to kind of scope out where the bad parts of where the Jewish, and they like to call it, as we call it, ghetto. With that, once they did that, not too long shortly after, they had buses, not buses, they had trains that they loaded all these people on, and then they transferred them to these concentration camps, which in all real reality was really called death camps. With that, again, just like the concentration camps, the trains were very unhumane. There was people upon people, there was people on top of people, there was kids, there was women, there was men. and there was no bathroom, there was no windows, there was nothing. They were just on top of one another, and they were using this one little bucket for a bathroom, which, as you can imagine, completely overflowed within probably minutes between vomiting and peeing and other feces. And also, what you can imagine with all that overflowing, it had to have been, of course, nasty. But also, you have to think that it was, again, inhumane, and you also had to think that people were stepping through all that. Fast forward to getting to the concentration camps. Of course, this is a picture of them loading the people on the train. And here's your guards. Fast forward to the concentration camps. What they got to the concentration camps, again, like I said, I can't stretch this enough. They were treated very inhumane. Men and women were separated, and even the kids, they were separated from their parents. They were all in their own little groups. Once they got there, they shaved their heads, they made them strip down naked, gave them uniforms, which is also right here. They wore striped pajamas. And they actually made them line up. And from then on, that's really truly where their nightmare began. They took wedding bands from them. They took shoes from them. They had nothing to call their own. The only thing that they had was pretty much a shaved head. A shaved head. They didn't have a name. They didn't know each other by their names. They knew each other by a number. And that's basically all they were. They were a number that Hitler was trying to get rid of. And of course that was stated in identified by numbers process. Okay. And again, I have a picture of shoes that were once belonged to people. During this whole time, during the concentration camp, again, I can't stretch this enough. These people were tormented. They were starved. Anyone that wasn't a Jew was basically a slave. So they worked hard. They were very malnutritioned. And then of course, anyone that tried to break out, tried to escape or anything like that, they were prosecuted. And even then, on certain days, a amount of people were taken to what they called gas chambers. And basically what they would do in there is they would gas them, and then they would all die. And of course, you know the story of where they basically burned what's left of their body. Again, it's nothing that anybody would want to endure. And if they didn't die from a gas chamber, being shot, or dying from malnutrition, they died of diseases. Again, as you can imagine, it was constantly walking through poop, living in their own feces and everybody else's. So that does cause diseases. In conclusion, what this is to do is to educate you about the concentration camps. It was a terrible place. It was scary. It was very inhumane how they did that to these human beings, all because one man made everyone believe that if you weren't a certain way, then you weren't normal. And then of course these last few pictures this is the gas chambers, and then of course this is one man that still continues till this day to wear his uniform. It's basically how he notes it is as that he survived this. And so it's just a reminder every day that he survived it.